Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show that's all about genocide and scumbaggery, revealing the lighter side of genocide. It's the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. From the fabulously fluoridated capital of Auckland, New Zealand, the island-chained nation in the sunny slave South Pacific. It's freaking gorgeous. Not only is it fluoridated, it's also Fukushima irradiated, and everybody got a part-time job as an incandescent light bulb to help the economy. My very special guests, with a plural, for a reason, are Kent Bain and Kris Milligan, the co-authors and cohorts and COINTEL, not COINTEL Pro. I think they're a bit amateur. No, I was just joking. They've written this book called The Most Dangerous Book in the World. I'll say that again. We are going to be interviewing the authors today of the most dangerous book in the world. So, if that starts to make you freak out just a little bit, it probably should. Because it's very, 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 very important to understand that there are two worlds, the physical and the metaphysical. Some people have gone completely insane and they don't know the difference, namely the elite. And they conduct real messed up rituals based on ancient dark occulted mysticism in order to channel humanity like a river to flow in the areas that they would wish them to flood. In other words, trying to leech all the money out of the economy, try to make everybody afraid to stop them from thinking, and try to coerce their conformity by gradually taking away their rights and freedoms and keeping it all secret in a compartmentalized fashion so that people have no idea the hand that truly is holding the gun pointed at their economy and their country and their spirit. So, Kent Bain and Kris Milligan, welcome to the show. Kent?
Yes. Good to be with you.
And Kris?
And thank you very much for having us on. Appreciate it.
Well, I've already spoken to Kent so far this morning, but we were unable to get a hold of you, Kris. So, Kent, your background, and you told me about your father and how he was a very onto it Christian minister who also taught a whole number of other topics, including philosophy and ethics. And
right.
we talked about how there's sort of a bloodline reason for why a lot of us become the people that we are. And I think that goes for the Illuminati as well as it goes for people of this vein who
right.
are more or less born into an environment that naturally starts resisting the Illuminati simply by its mere existence, like a truther bloodline.
Right.
And I wanted to get also your background story as well, Kris, about what does your parents do for a living?
Oh, well, my father was in the intelligence services. He got involved as an exchange student to China in the 1930s. And then during the war, he was in COI and OSS, got involved in deep politics in 1943. Was in OSS and both in G2, was sent to the Philippines. Ended up going after the war into a couple alphas at State Department, then was in CIA. His last overt job at CIA was branch chief, head of all of East Asia Analysis Office. And then he went covert. I went with him as a youngster to Indonesia in the early 50s when Sukarno was there.
Did you by chance attend a madrasa with Barack H. O'Barry?
No. This was quite a bit before then. This was like 1950, 51. And then my dad, I was still a little kid, he went back in 56 to East Asia, and then things changed, I could tell. And then in '59, he left the agency completely and moved the whole family out to Oregon. And then in 1969, he started talking to me. He told me that there was he said he'd signed a thing that only said he couldn't talk for 10 years, and he told me, he said the Vietnam War is about drugs. There's these secret societies behind it and stuff like that, and talked to me about psychological warfare and sway pieces. But I was 19, almost 20, and I really didn't understand what he was talking about until he told me about some of his intelligence career, because he'd never talked about it before. And because of that, I started doing research in the subject I called CIA drugs, and ran an email list, and had somebody on there that had a book that had been with an agent in New York for many years, and he was decrying that nobody would publish it. And I finally said, well, I've got a computer on my desk. They tell me I can make a book. And then another friend, because my dad had mentioned secret societies, I started researching those, and I became friends with Anthony Sutton, and his book was going out of print, and I says, Anthony, your book can't go out of print. And so I borrowed $5,000 and started a publishing company.
So, knowing where you come from, the both of you, it must come as no surprise as to where you've ended up. And the reason I've prefaced this conversation in this way is because not only are we going to travel back in our own lives, but we have to now transport ourselves back over a decade to 9/11, 2001. It seems a different world and a different time, because we now live in a post 9/11 world. And would like to go into this conversation with Kent as well, and lead on to just, can you outline what you think 9/11 really is and really represents for us from your point of view?
Yes, of course, there were a range of practical objectives that the orchestrators of 9/11 had, from taking the United States to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, to initiating and then building over the course of the last 10 years a domestic police state and stripping us of many of our civil liberties. But as part of that, and then also kind of on a separate track, there was a massive psychological warfare component designed to help fulfill a range of objectives. Some of them were fairly straightforward, and then some are, occult or geared towards nefarious purposes in themselves. And depending on your belief in the existence of evil and the whether or not black magic is in fact a tool for tapping into the dark forces and dark energies of the universe, you'll assign various meaning to what they tried to do, and have you might have a different opinion about it. But there was certainly a black magic ritual that was part of the overall 9/11 attack, and certainly it's not uncommon for the psychological warfare programmers to integrate black magic symbolism into their different activities. But this was by far the largest scale application that the world had ever seen of this type of thing, and so it's these.
Can we step back a second here?
Sure.
What's black magic?
Well, it is. You could say it just is as opposed to white magic, which is the use of metaphysical energies to fulfill various purposes, and the occult is. I used it primarily in the book to refer to the dark arts and to black magic and use the term somewhat synonymously. The occult, can be used. Occult methods and practices can be used for both good and negative purposes. And the black magic, of course, is the use of the metaphysical to pursue oppressive or self-fulfilling objectives, as opposed to try to help humanity or to improve your world. And so there is a difference, of course, between the dark arts and then the what you call the life-affirming metaphysical practices. And so that's just kind of a general description of it. But there are, of course, a whole range of rituals, symbols, and tools, techniques, objects that are utilized in the practice of black magic.
And specifically in 9/11's case, what would those icons or sigils be?
Well, in the book, I introduce the reader to them, give them a bit of general background on the symbols and their meaning, and then talk about how they were manifest in our reality and how they were incorporated into the 9/11 mega ritual. And the Twin Towers were intended as the massive modern day representations of the Pillars of Hermes or the Twin Pillars of Freemasonry. The Pentagon is a very powerful occult symbol. It is not universally held to be a symbol of the dark arts. It has been seen also as a symbol of protection, but of course in context of the 9/11 Luciferian mega ritual, of course, they were invoking its negative aspects, and so you have those two massive symbols.
Is it kind of like a unisex bathroom in a way? It doesn't matter whether you're using it for one purpose or the other. It works both ways.
Yeah, I mean, guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people, and so it's, similarly these supernatural metaphysical properties and practices can be used for a range of purposes, all the way from oppression and death to life-giving objectives.
Well, it means it can be used either way. So it simply means you can use it, and as long as people aren't aware that you're using it, you can still continue to use it and still draw power with it. Because if everybody has the same power and everybody recognizes the symbols, that means they got no hold over you.
Well, that's true, and the general public's unfamiliarity with the symbols with the occult, whether good or bad, the loss of that common language that maybe the public had a bit more awareness of in times past, but our total lack of awareness of these symbols and their meaning are part of what allowed the Illuminati to perform these rituals in plain sight before our very eyes, because we don't know what we're looking at, and we don't know what meaning to assign to the various objects that we're viewing, or to the acts that are being performed with them or through them or on them. And so to the average viewer, the attack on the Twin Towers were just two planes flown by terrorists, striking the symbols of the America's financial might. But there was a level on which it was much more than that, and so you have to peel the onion. And of course, there were just the images of those towers being attacked and then subsequently being completely destroyed were, of course, traumatic in themselves. But then on a deeper level, the symbols that were being invoked and the statement, the occult references that were being made and the related deities that were being invoked, that's a level that has really not been explored before very in-depthly within the 9/11 truth community. And there are bits and pieces of this, floating around on the internet, but to our knowledge, this is the first time it's been pulled together in quite this way and explained with this degree of detail, and sort of the narrative been pulled together so that people can not only be familiarized with the symbols, but understand what they meant in context of that day, and then what was being accomplished, not only from a practical perspective, but then also as part of what I refer to as the occult script for 9/11.
Well, let's talk about that occult script when we come back from the break. And I also want to hear a little bit more from Kris as well, and what he makes about all of this. We'll be right back after the break at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. Don't you go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We're speaking with the author and publisher of the most dangerous book in the world, and there was a part of the preface here that I wanted to read out for people from this book. Prologue, knock knock. It was inevitable that this book would be written. There is, among conspiracy aficionados, a kind of brotherhood. I use the gender-specific term brotherhood deliberately. It is a brotherhood buried alive. But what does that mean? And I was thinking, the term brotherhood, have you noticed how so many of the truthers and authors, like predominantly male, the radio show hosts and things like that. There's an element of femininity there, but also the one of the terms as well that comes to mind when we talk about brotherhood is the Brotherhood of Freemasonry, and they call each other brother. They swear that they won't reveal any secrets of the brotherhood for fear of being, cut from ear to ear or buried up to their neck in sand at the low tide mark. This kind of weird stuff. And when we're talking about this, a lot of people aren't familiar with the occult, but I pride my audience on, having listened to me for any length of time, you'll notice that I have occult researchers on a semi-regular basis because, essentially, like I said, there's two worlds, the physical and the metaphysical. They both exist simultaneously and synchronistically. And unless you understand how both of them fit together in the nexus of the like, you don't know anything. And if you're looking at something like 9/11 or any type of conspiracy, the key thing is specifically knowing what questions to ask. And if you know the parameters of the physical and the metaphysical together, and you're looking at an occult ritual, a mass mind control experiment, operation, psyop, whatever you call it, if you don't know the questions to ask, you will never receive the correct answers. And if you deny and attempt to keep out of your field of vision things that maybe sound a little strange or funky that aren't in the physical realm, you're essentially kneecapping yourself in an intellectual sense of the word. So Kent Bain and Kris Milligan are my guests. Now, Kris, being a publisher of a book like this, and of course your father being who he was, what do you make of this whole situation in terms of how important do you believe it is for people to understand the occult ramifications of 9/11?
Well, I think it's very important to understand it, and it was my posit. And I think there's a lot of evidence that shows that such things as the Kennedy assassination was also at its core an occult mass trauma ritual, because it's one of the modicums that are used to control us hoi polloi, us people. Okay. So I think it's very important for people to understand. Because if you don't understand, how are you going to get anywhere? Just going to be running around. We've been very ill-served by our news media and been very ill-served by our education system. And generally it's not their fault. It's because both of those institutions have been attacked and taken over by people that do not wish us well.
Essentially, I believe that to be a self-evident truth. And the thing is, most people will see a public life. Okay, they'll see a prime minister or an El Presidente, and they'll see the big smile on his face, and they'll see the shaking hands and the kissing of babies, but they don't see the torture and rape of children by said people in the background. So they have a remarkably different perspective on who this person really is.
Well, that's true. I mean, one thing my father told me, he says, you know, the Vietnam War is about drugs. There's these secret societies, and then he said, and communism is all a sham. It's all a big game. These same secret societies are behind it all. You know, so I mean, there have been very broad strokes in psychological warfare to use to separate us and to get us to fight each other and all kinds of myriad things. And again, it's not, you know, it's not about money. It's about control.
What is the ultimate goal? How much control do they really want?
They want control over the future, over you know, your and our, my children's future, and what I see as a pragmatic end game going on right now. The pragmatic end game going on right now is to move control to China, and we're dealing with a secret societal system that is based in Europe, that has a partner in China, and the partner in China has a little brother sister in Korea, and they've been using America as a cat's paw, as a tool to get the world into shape. Basically, we've been going around, excuse me, killing the Indians and getting the land, and then you have China, which just stands up and says, "Cur American war mongrel dog." We're, you know, got 5,000 years of civilization, peace, peace, peace. And by the way, make sure you send all the remittances to us because they have all the factories.
Well, see, and that's another element. David Rockefeller described the Chinese system of an awful police state with the non-ability to protest or speak out, only one party, that kind of thing. As one of the most important and fundamentally beneficial social experiments in mankind's history, and that they want to make that a model for the world. You know, forced labor camps, having your organs harvested on the way to a waiting airplane to sell those organs on the black market. You know, this kind of stuff. And I was at a protest in Auckland, must have been a month or two ago, and a Chinese lady came up to me, and she said, "I was just wondering what this is." And I go, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like you have people gathered together and they've got signs and they're talking and they're chanting, and you've got people with loudhailers and a stage set up, and people are talking about politics. What is this? And I said, "It's a protest." And she's like, What's that?" And I said, "You've never seen one of these, have you?" She's like, "No, I didn't even know what it was." And it was just like a remarkable perspective. And we both burst out laughing at how hilarious it was. Just seeing people speaking their mind and trying to put across a message is an alien concept. And that gave me an idea of what the future will be like under a New World Order system.
Yes. And if they're able to pull off what Kent talks about in the second part of the book, I mean, it'll be very easy.
Okay. So, Kent, would you wish to expand on that? In terms of the
Yes.
in terms of the end goals here and how much control they want, the type of society they're trying to create using events like 9/11.
Well, it certainly appears that they're not satisfied with just what they've been able to accomplish through 9/11, although it was used to strip us of any number of freedoms and to accomplish all sorts of different goals and objectives. But it appears to many observers that we are being marched rather quickly towards new territory, towards something even larger and more grotesque than what we've been confronted with in the wake of 9/11. That it's not just that they continue to use 9/11 to gain new ground and new power, but that they have larger plans for us. And the sort of the idea behind the second half of the book is that I take the what was uncovered in the first part of the book about the occult script for 9/11, and then I kind of apply that in a forward-looking fashion to look and see what might be their next target date or location for a new 9/11. And if you understand the context that we're in, where they have constructed this massive machinery of tyranny around us and upon the foundation of 9/11, and all they really need at this point is a spark to crank that machinery to life, then you get the real sense that we are just waiting on that spark, that one event, that trigger to enter a hot tyranny where we are stripped of even more freedoms and where we're subject to even greater levels of oppression. And so the second half of the book looks at what that might be, what that triggering event might be, and it looks at it from the perspective of with 9/11 there were practical objectives that were interwoven with the occult objectives, and the date that 9/11 occurred on was very significant, and so we take a similar look forward to 2012. And it in addition to our being in a situation where this machinery of tyranny just awaits the spark of ignition, 2012 itself is very significant from an occult perspective. Before I really delved into 9/11 research, I was doing a lot of background reading and research on the 2012 phenomenon and how it's being used, and it's been utilized very much like the Y2K event, which was of course a non-event, and there was some real threat there, but it was mitigated, but it was blown completely out of proportion. And so in looking at what was being done with 2012, I wanted to understand, first of all, what the background was and what the issues were. But in the process of all of that research, I began to understand that it is a very significant date. Winter solstice of this year is a very significant date on the occult calendar, and essentially marks the end of not just the age of Aquarius, but it marks the end of the Great Age, or the cycle of precession. And of course, there are references in various the calendars of various cultures and religious systems, the Mayans being among them, to this the end of this grand cycle of time. But so when you stand back, what you have is a situation where a massive framework of control has been constructed, and it's ready to go at precisely this moment in history, which you could view from the occult perspective as the single most important time in human history. You've got this convergence here, and so it certainly appears that we're due for the next 9/11, not just a new 9/11, but perhaps, as I allude to in the book, 9/11 was not just an event unto itself, but it marked a countdown to this year, an 11-year countdown from September 11, 2001 to December of this year, when they will seek to mark this most auspicious of occasions on their calendar through a mass sacrifice that will dwarf the sacrifice of 9/11.
Have you heard of
So
Werner von Braun and his postulation that they would go from the Cold War to terrorism and then to a false alien invasion?
I have heard of that, and of course, there were a number of conspiracy writers and authors that thought that perhaps the London Olympics would be the venue for the I guess the public unveiling of Project Bluebeam, and of course that didn't happen, and
Instead, it was a public unveiling of 13 giant, all-seeing eye pyramid light towers with occult rituals of all descriptions, like frickin' straight out of the Lord of the Rings, with some rising phoenix and some worshipping dark monkey dancing, like in some kind of Chinese kung fu film. It was like, what the hell, bro? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it was an occult extravaganza. I have a short chapter in the second half of the book about that, and it, at least in context of the scenario that I'm presenting for an attack on Phoenix in December of this year, there were a number of occult markers, symbols that seem to point directly at Phoenix, and of course the use of the Phoenix symbol itself, and a number of other items that I cover in the book.
Well, they often try to foreshadow what they're doing. It's like a psychopath doesn't really enjoy just hurting you. He likes to know that you're going to hurt him. He's going to hurt you first in order to derive some pleasure off your fear and suffering. We'll be right back after the break at thevinnieeastwoodshow.com.
If you take an active interest in maintaining the optimum health and well-being of yourself and your family, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is the magazine you've been waiting for. Having taken Australia and New Zealand by storm, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is now available in the UK and Europe. Visit www.nznaturalmed.co.uk or call 01626 337 531 to order your copy now.
Do you realise every day we are being put under constant stress from wireless radiation? What's worse is that you don't even know that it's happening. It puts as much stress on our body as if we had a constant viral infection, draining our energy and sapping our strength, or just making us irritable and fatigued. These wireless fields are being emitted from computers, microwaves, mobile phones, power lines, and any electrical appliance. Now there is a solution. A group of research engineers in New Zealand have come up with an active shielding device that shields you from wireless radiation at a cellular level. Blue Shield comes in 3 models: a household, portable, and USB that plugs into any computer. The great thing about Blue Shield is it is very affordable and guaranteed to last. A one-off purchase will see you being protected for years to come. Visit AmericanFreedomRadio.com and click on the Blue Shield banner. Blue Shield, brought to you by theVinnieEastwoodShow.com.
No matter where you live, globalism affects you. Did you know that the Vinny Eastwood Show has more subscribers than New Zealand Herald TV and is New Zealand's most popular YouTube news channel, where warm-hearted humour and a list of awesome guests talk about crucial issues which the mainstream media ignore? A show where you, the listener, can phone up with questions, comments and suggestions of guests. Vinny is building a hub to connect truthers with raw information they need to become active. He can help you gain further skills such as website building, producing audio and video, and creating revenue streams in your own multimedia environment. Because Vinny supports such a wide range of people in the truth movement, he is not government or corporate backed and relies entirely on your donations. Give now, give generously, or subscribe for $10 a month for access to ad-free video archives. Just visit thevinnieeastwoodshow.com and click donate.
Welcome back. Yes, thank you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. It's fabulous. I love American Freedom Radio so much. Namely because New Zealand's got this thing called tall poppy syndrome. You know how you have to kind of somehow get out of that crappy little town you're in or whatever in order to become successful? and meet other people of like mind, where currently your physical location restricts access to said people. That's what American Freedom Radio gave me. Access to people that I can get along with who are onto it. And I was talking to my friend, he dropped over about 20 minutes before the show today, about how I instantly am starting to get along with these people who are intelligent, talented, hardworking, creative, and good people like that. Like, it just comes naturally. And he said, there's a really important lesson in there, bro. And I go, yeah, I know. Well, there's two important lessons. Number one, I'm intelligent, hardworking, and all of those things as well. So we naturally got some kind of common ground. But secondly, we try to find people that are better than us in some way, who've done something that we haven't done, so that we can live in a way vicariously through their experience and advance the people that we really are and advance our own thoughts. That's what I think is really, really important. I don't know anything. I believe everything I know to be true is probably just wrong. And I just haven't seen the evidence yet of how wrong I am. My very special guests are Kent Bain and my very special guest, Kris Milligan as well. And Kris, I was talking with Kent over the break about 9/11 and kind of how it's hard for people to kind of grasp the concepts that we're going through here without prefacing information. You know, like, to know what 9/11 is actually requires a shockingly large amount of work. The research that goes into a book like this, The Most Dangerous Book in the World, for instance, is extraordinary. How do you compile something like this? How much work does it take before you can put it in from what I've read, probably one of the most digestible formats I've seen in a decade about 9/11?
Well, you just take your time. I mean, Kent came to me and he kind of was thinking, well, maybe somebody else could do it better. And I read, he had done a good workup of it, and I says, no, I think you're the person to write it, because he was the person that went on that journey of research that put it all together. And that's what it is. I mean, that all of us have to take is a bit of a journey from where our understanding, is, into where it can be. And he presented it to me, and I looked at it, and I says, well, I think this is good, and we'll bring it out as a spring of 2013 book, which was our next catalog. And then he brought the next part, and I says, well, let's go ahead and push it up and put it out there, because I'd rather, put it out there than be sitting around the spring and be saying, oh my. And so, it takes a lot of research, and I think Kent did a very good job. I worked with him on it, but it's mainly Kent's work, and the one. Probably one comment I get the most is that it's a totality of the information that is presented. Because if you just pick out one little factoid, it doesn't really mean too much. But when you put it all together, it really supplies a very strong picture and helps you to understand what's been going on. And it's not so much even, the people that are doing this don't even have to believe in it, okay? Because, again, what it is, it's a controlling mechanism. It's a controlling, it's like, a classic thing in secret societies that they'll ask a person to do is spit on a Bible. Okay, and they have an answer for you no matter what you do. Okay, but it gets to a point in time where somebody, they're told to spit on the Bible, and they, instead of, spitting on the Bible out of some belief, they spit on the Bible because their father or somebody told them to, because then they get to play with the people over here instead of the people over there. So it goes beyond belief, and again, it's basically about control. And when you look at these groups of people, these secret society, and look at some of these families, when you're a member of a secret society, that is a kind of mind control in itself, a mind, quote unquote, mind training, mind control. Okay, that puts you in a certain milieu so that you see things in a certain way. And personally, I think that they're nuts, and their secrecy and what they're doing is not good for all of us on mankind. And I think that basically all they have is virtual control. Basically, the biggest control of the media. Now, we have a different media in the United States than you do over there in New Zealand and Australia. You have a PAL system, which has different lines of resolution and a different flicker pattern. In the United States, we've got a 60-second flicker pattern, which, if you read any book about hypnosis, puts you into a trance. And that is part of the...
That's actually a very physical reaction as well. There's a certain amount of frames, I think it's like 25 frames per second or whatever, that appears as a moving picture in normal reality. And if you increase the flicker rate, your brain switches from alpha waves, which are the analytical things that it used to do, mathematics, connect concepts, things like that, and it switched to a beta wave state, which is more the sort of a subconscious, not fully awake, not fully aware, not fully listening, but not fully asleep. And it's kind of it's very similar to how a hypnotist will go sleep, and your head kind of goes down, and then he starts whispering things to you, suggesting things, and they take root in your mind. It's very similar to that, and it happens within 30 seconds. 30 seconds is all it takes of watching television for that wave switch.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so you take, I mean, we have been assaulted here with this psychological warfare for generations. And we're dealing with lies that were told to our grandparents, and it's amazing how the lies stick. Like oil is a fossil fuel, and so it's and then again, and things are very generational in that things are processed through our pop culture, and with every generation, with them especially doing this heavy psychological warfare, where there's not so much talk between generations and whatnot. It's very easy for them to move cultural norms and different things around. And I just want to get back to one thing, is that they're a small group of people. There's way more of us than them, and all we need to do is to put some people in jail, and we can have our country back.
In the Frank Herbert sense of the word, the sleeper must awaken.
Yes, yes.
And get off the couch. Kent, we've probably only got about 40 seconds left in this segment here before we go on to the second hour. Is there anything you want to interject here before we go to break? I'll take that as a no.
No, just I'll quickly say that kind of touching on what Kris started off talking about. This book was a collaboration between the two of us, and he just immediately picked up on where I was going with the book, and encouraged me to write it, and I wouldn't have done that just on my own, and so working with him has been a really positive experience, and Trine Day has published a lot of books in this genre and was just the perfect organization to turn to get this message out.
Like a co-pilot holding the map, giving you accurate direction so that both of you don't get lost in the process.
Very good.
I've got this idea, ladies and gentlemen, that we work so much better and accomplish so much more when it's two free individuals, or maybe even more, collaborating together than either one of our egos or either one of our brilliance could ever accomplish alone. So it means that when you're working with people, you've got to find somebody who you click with, who you actually, at the end of the conversation or at the end of the day, have actually truly accomplished something that's better than either one of you could have done on your own. That's when you know you've found a true friend and you stay loyal to them. We'll be right back after the break at thevinnieeastwoodshow.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the fastest 2 hours in talk radio. It's the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com, and we're looking at the live streams here, and there's heaps of people tuning in. There's like 7 countries total, so that's nice. And I particularly wanted to give a shout out to the listener in Brazil, because I was just thinking, man, there's not a lot of South American listeners. It's like, hey, Chico, listen to the Vinny Eastwood Show, man. and so forth. Maybe that was a bit racist. Sorry. Anyway, I appreciate it, and I want more South Americans to be listening. Gonna go intercontinental, like a ballistic missile of a show. My very special guests are Kent Bain and Kris Milligan, co-authors and confidants of the most dangerous book in the world, 9/11 as a Mass Ritual. And I wanted to talk about this concept of a mass ritual and a mind control technique. And there was a study that came out in the mainstream media about the psychological effect of 9/11. And seeing something on television that's traumatic and dangerous and horrible actually does have an effect on you, even if you're not there. And the collective trauma of 9/11, of all of us seeing this, and the fear and the terrorism and that kind of stuff, it's kind of imprinted us all with this fear paradigm that we call the post-9/11 world. So if you comprehend what the fear paradigm is actually attempting to push you into, you can then be aware of it and subsequently shed your fear of it, because to my mind, nothing is more frightening than the unknown. And if you are exploring the unknown and the deep dark mysteries and things of that nature, then suddenly they become more familiar and you stop becoming afraid of it because of a lack of awareness. And that's what we try to do here on the show every day. And I applaud these men for producing this book as well. Guys, welcome back. In the second hour here, I was wondering if you would reveal some maybe personal experiences of the actual research and things that you did during the creation of the book, just to give people maybe a bit of a background of the actual work that goes into it, and what kind of research you've been doing, perhaps of a primary nature.
I in the introduction to the book, I refer to the book as really a collaboration amongst many individuals, and almost none of whom I've actually met or really interacted with, because there were, as I began to look into this, the occult aspects of 9/11 and the concept of 9/11 as a mass ritual. I was very skeptical. I was trying to really satisfy my own curiosity and dismiss some of the things that I just had a brief introduction to. But there were lots of people that had been looking at different pieces of the puzzle, had made some really interesting observations, and as I began to dig deeper and deeper, I found that some of these observations were in fact valid and based on some good insights and some good research, which is not really what I wanted to find. And so that caused me to further my investigation. And certainly not all of the research that is revealed in the book, incorporated into the book, is original on my part. I kind of like to think of myself more as the aggregator or the storyteller There were, a couple of works that were influential, very influential in particular in my own thinking, and then that helped shape the writing of this book. But then there were a lot of things that I picked up from various blog sites, conspiracy bulletin boards, various reading in various subjects. And then once I began to realize that there was something worth looking at, that there was a real story there, then that entailed a lot of background research, because my background is not in the occult or comparative religions or anything of that nature. So I had a lot of homework that I needed to do to become versant in all of the subjects necessary to really make sense of what I was finding and what some of these other researchers that I had a head start on me were pointing out. And so I really wanted to thoroughly understand what they were saying and what appeared to have happened on 9/11. And so, I looked into a whole range of different fields, from astrotheology to black magic to just a whole range of subjects. And I had begun to do some of that type of reading in various fields of that nature, just as I mentioned earlier, trying to understand the 2012 phenomenon. And as it turned out, that whole enterprise, that line of research, then turned out to factor very heavily into the second half of the book, and really where I think 9/11 is pointing, and what has been built on the 9/11 day itself, and moving forward, that it was building towards something, not just it wasn't just an event that was unto itself. And it has certainly been used to great extent over the last 11 years. But I think it was also pointing towards something and building towards something that may unfortunately culminate at the end of this year. So I don't think I did any wasted research, because there's so many angles and aspects of 9/11 that everything that I looked into really had some sort of bearing as I began to piece together the occult script for 9/11. Just about every angle that I looked at it from, there was a component, as you might expect. With an event this large, knowing that there was an occult framework, you would expect it to be extensive and very sophisticated, and indeed it is. And there are so what I tried to do with the book was, without going into a tremendous amount of detail on any one subject, it provide enough background so that the average reader that didn't have familiarity with the occult or the supernatural could come in and read a bit about the background of a particular symbol or deity, as the case may be, and then kind of follow right along into how that was integrated into the script for 9/11. So it was very much a learning process for me, and one that I started from scratch, and kind of came to the 9/11 truth movement late compared to many researchers, and was able to benefit from a lot of good work that had already been done. But hopefully I've been able to package this particular topic in a way that will be beneficial to others, and that perhaps breaks some new ground and provides a new investigative angle that we can look at this event from, and hopefully it will interest people, so that they will maybe the somewhat novel idea of 9/11 being a mass occult ritual will capture the public's attention in a way that they will then turn around and take a look at a lot of the solid scientific evidence that exists that most people ignore. And so I don't see this as being, one or the other. Okay, either you believe, for scientific reasons that 9/11 was a mass conspiracy, or you have to believe it for this reason or that reason. I think there are many reasons to come to the understanding that 9/11 was orchestrated, that the 9/11 Commission's report is absolute fiction, And this is just one more piece of the puzzle, one more damning piece of evidence that we can add to the arsenal, so that we can hopefully, those of us that are already immersed in trying to, ourselves have wakened up and we're trying to awaken others, that we can use this to, get underneath the mainstream media and the government's version of events for 9/11, and continue to chip away at that and kind of invade the consciousness of the average citizen with truth.
Well, and you were talking about black magic and white magic, right? There's also black propaganda and white propaganda, which I think operate on the same principles. The white meaning the light, to shed light on things and use the truth to help people's opinions form and shape. The black propaganda meaning to repeatedly offer lies and manipulation in order to ensure that people can't figure out what's going on. And what I've got in my kind of tool belt here is a wide knowledge and experience with the tactique of propagandists, and I'm conscious of the fact that not only do we need a counterintelligence eye on 9/11, but we also need a counter-propagandistic eye on 9/11 and all of these other false flag effects. If anything, analysing how they brainwash people and what their methodologies are on a psychological slash spiritual slash occult sense is, in my opinion, almost the most important, because it's how we are taught to think certain things. And you ask anybody, anywhere, anytime, what the real problem is with society, is that people don't think. And it's not an accident.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And if Kris mentioned earlier that their ultimate objective is control, and that's absolutely right. And how are we most effectively controlled? By the manipulation of our beliefs. And if you look at psychological warfare, mind control practices, how they're constructed, the different components, and then the various levels of our psyche that they attack. And then you think of the general public, the global public, as being a unified psyche, and think of 9/11 as a mass mind control program, and designed to subject us to trauma-based mind control for a whole range of purposes. Then that's a good analogy, because then you look back and you look at the occult script and you see all of the dark elements that are woven in, and you begin to understand really what they were trying to do. The practitioners, the orchestrators of the 9/11 mega ritual, they don't necessarily have to be true believers in Satanism or the occult or black magic in order for the techniques that they've utilized to be very effective. Now, I would argue that there are probably quite a number of true believers in the mix there, but we just would have no way of knowing. But the point being that the techniques and the tactics are equally effective regardless of what they believe. The most effective psychological warfare, mind control regimens are those that incorporate occult elements, rituals into the overall program, because they create maximum trauma, therefore maximum susceptibility to the programming objectives of those that are conducting the experiment, not the experiment, but conducting the operation. And so, knowing that is the case for individuals, that these the dark elements of the mind control program are most effective and produce the most effective results, then you can certainly understand why.
And because it's so dark, people don't want to hear about it, so it keeps continuing to be used effectively.
Up to this very day, yeah. You're exactly right. Hopefully one thing that can come out of this book, and it's certainly not unique, but maybe it will gain enough visibility to help people begin to understand the language of these types of events. And 9/11 is the grandest example that we have to look at to date. Of course, as Kris mentioned, the Kennedy assassination is a close second, but there are all sorts of secondary public rituals, or I won't call them mini rituals, because they're fairly sophisticated and large scale and use the mass media themselves. But I deal with a number of those in the second half of the book. Even though the second half is sort of predictive fiction, I weave a lot of fact and real world elements and individuals into the script, and then also in that process look at several events, including the shooting of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords in Tucson in January of 2011, and the theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado, and examine those and dissect those really as mass rituals as well, and of course of a lesser scale than 9/11. But once you see the and can recognize the format and the language that they use to communicate with each other, to through the incorporation of the occult symbols and markers into the event, you really do get a profile that just emerges, that where you can look at other events. Now, of course, you can get carried away, and you can see a conspiracy behind every event, and you can assign significance to just about any date that you care to. But if you have a genuine understanding of just sort of the history of these types of rituals and operations, you can fairly quickly begin to discern the real patterns, these real public rituals, and then look for them and look for those markers when and I guess that's one of the things that I hope a reader would take away from this book, would be the ability to recognize these things on their own in the future, so that we are less susceptible to manipulation through these techniques. Just the most recent example is
how about you
the Benghazi attack.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Benghazi attack when we come home, because
Sure.
There's so many things around that. Like, apparently the thing wasn't even an embassy; it was a safe house, and there weren't any cops that showed up to the protests and stuff like that. And I've never seen a protest not have cops to show up to it. And sure enough, the protesters got out of control. It's all over some Muslim kind of crap. And the justification is we go back into Iraq. We'll be right.
If you take an active interest in maintaining the optimum health and well-being of yourself and your family, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is the magazine you've been waiting for. Having taken Australia and New Zealand by storm, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is now available in the UK and Europe. Visit www.nznaturalmed.co.uk or call 01626 337 531 to order your copy now.
Do you realise every day we are being put under constant stress from wireless radiation? What's worse is that you don't even know that it's happening. It puts as much stress on our body as if we had a constant viral infection, draining our energy and sapping our strength, or just making us irritable and fatigued. These wireless fields are being emitted from computers, microwaves, mobile phones, power lines, and any electrical appliance. Now there is a solution. A group of research engineers in New Zealand have come up with an active shielding device that shields you from wireless radiation at a cellular level. Blue Shield comes in 3 models: a household, portable, and USB that plugs into any computer. The great thing about Blue Shield is it is very affordable and guaranteed to last. A one-off purchase will see you being protected for years to come. Visit AmericanFreedomRadio.com and click on the Blue Shield banner. Blue Shield, brought to you by the VinnyEastwoodShow.com.
No matter where you live, globalism affects you. Did you know that the Vinny Eastwood Show has more subscribers than New Zealand Herald TV and is New Zealand's most popular YouTube news channel, where warm-hearted humour and a list of awesome guests talk about crucial issues which the mainstream media ignore. A show where you, the listener, can phone up with questions, comments and suggestions of guests. Vinny is building a hub to connect truthers with raw information they need to become active. He can help you gain further skills such as website building, producing audio and video, and creating revenue streams in your own multimedia environment. Because Vinny supports such a wide range of people in the truth movement, he is not government or corporate backed and relies entirely on your donations. Give now, give generously, or subscribe for $10 a month for access to ad-free video archives. Just visit thevinnyeastwoodshow.com and click donate.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. It's the show that's all about organized crime, criminal cartel cabals, and Gog and Magog and Joe and Boaz and Jackin, and sacrificed by a burning on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Broadcasting all up and down the corrupt eastern seaboard with the ridiculously fascist scumbaggery scumfracks that operate out of Washington, D.C., the death camp of America. And I'm my very special guests, our Bain and Kris Milligan. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Get this right. You know how there's two responses you can take to this type of information? Oh, it's crazy, and therefore you're crazy. Or, I really hate the fact that all this stuff is going on and nobody knows about it. So I'm going to blame all the people who don't know about it for this problem, instead of blaming the people who are actually manipulating them and controlling the education system and the media to prevent them from knowing about it. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever heard of somebody call people slaves or sheeple or slave scum or something like that? Nobody actually wakes anybody up by doing that, I don't think. You know, I mean, did you wake up to the New World Order complex by somebody rushing up to you and in a hurried and furious spitting voice with the spittle kind of flying on your face, calling you a slave, and that you've got a slave job and you're about to be exterminated and all of that kind of stuff? And it was like, no, that wasn't how I woke up at all. In fact, it was people empowering me and sharing this new information that allowed me to wake myself up. If you're not aware of a conspiracy in any way, shape, or form, how on earth are you ever going to know how it works or what's truly going on? And conversely, how to live your life. And conversely, how to wake other people up. You don't do it by being angry with them. You do it by loving them and trying to raise them up, kind of like a tide raises all boats. We've all got to evolve intellectually here. We've got to go out and help people based upon the heart. Because my heart tells me that people are dying out there. People are miserable out there. People are having their careers subverted. People are having their creativity suppressed. From birth. From frickin' birth. And to go out and blame the whole system on people who have no awareness of it is like blaming a child for how bad their parents are. And it's frickin' disgusting to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's, the world's an interesting place. I mean, I've been very lucky in that, my dad, he told me some things that I didn't believe and didn't understand. And I got to take my own sweet time and, do some research and look and think about it. And it's a journey that you have to go from what, you were taught in school and taught by the media. And one thing that, I found out is that everybody, you have to go, you have to go down some blind alley. You have to go down, and find out that something's not true, because one of the first things a person does once they are confronted with this literature or milieu, whatever you want to say, is they tend to say, well, if this corruption is true here, then that means all these other corruption conspiracies are true too, or something like that. And so, and there's many places. I mean, conspiracy. When I first started telling folks about what my dad said, and somebody says, "Well, you're a conspiracy theorist." This was in the early '70s, and I says, well, what's that? And so I kind of took it on as a discipline to look into it. And there's lots of conspiracy theories out there, and some of them are, I can find you a book that blames it all on the Jews, blames it all on the Catholics, blames it all on the secular humanists, blames it all on the hippies, blames it all on the who do you want, And it's because a lot of them have been created just as part of the whole fracturing thing where, I'm a member of this group, I don't like you, and you don't like me, because when you look behind the curtains at the secret societal group, I mean, they'll wear whatever robe, whatever mask they've got to. They'll tell whatever lie that they have to get somebody to go from A to B. And so, again, there's way more of us than there are of them, and we can understand who they are, why they're doing it, and what they're doing. Kent brings to the table some of the putting together 9/11 and showing it to be a mass ritual. And another reason I really enjoyed it is because he did it with humor, because it's not it's not something you want to read about. I mean, he presented it in a way with some humor, and I mean, the most dangerous book in the world. I mean, goodness gracious me, some humor right in the title, because there are other people that talk about this. Some of them, are coming at it from a prescription or a position where they're really, yelling at you and different things. And one thing I enjoyed about Kent is, he was basically on a journey trying to understand it, and he found something, and he said, hey, I think I found something. And and that's what it is. It's a journey of understanding. And first, you say, well, something's hinky here, and then you finally say, well, there's something really hinky here, and it might affect my kids. And then you sit around and say, well, then what do you do, and other things. So, and one of the things that you do is you try and understand what's going on, because only by understanding it can we deal with it. Because if we just don't understand it, we're just sitting around, playing with quicksand or, playing with molasses.
Well, there's nothing solid to base your life on if that's the case, and it's like if you build your society or you build your government upon sand, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen to it. And I think it was Howard Zinn, who was a famed civil rights campaigner back during the American Black Civil Rights Movement, and he said one truth can shatter 1,000 lies, and I believe it's a self-evident truth.
Yeah, and we hope to forestall any event that they're looking to do, because 9/11 was classic mind control. I mean, you see these planes, melting into these buildings. I mean, we all know that there's a bunch of innocent people dying. That's trauma. That puts you into a shock. They smashed this big archetype. They spent all this time and money, getting our attention to the World Trade Center as this big symbol of might of America. Then they smash it, and then we've got the idiot son from Skull and Bones as president, presiding over the whole thing, and then they bring you the country back completely different. They go to these wars. You've got to almost strip before you get on an airplane, and then before 9/11, they kept up the pretense that we as a country didn't order assassinations of people. But now we know that the president has in his top drawer, he has a list of people that, we're trying to kill. Some of them even Americans. So, we've moved, from a republic, into empire. Okay? And they do this silently without telling us, because they want this bondage relationship with us. And it's very interesting. If you look at Skull and Bones, they talk about Hegel, and Hegel talks about this bondage relationship. And they do it silently, and it's like the Kennedy assassination. They killed him on 11/22. And if you look in classical numerology, 11 and 22 are the highest numbers. And one of their main meanings is mastery and supermastery. So if you kill the king, take his power, get away with it, everybody knows you do, and you're silently telling the people that you're the masters, well then, and we look up there and they say, well, if they're the masters, then gosh, I guess we're the slaves, right?
Well,
and that's the dynamics to how it works.
Yeah.
And it's insidious.
Well, it's like mass mind control. And I was thinking about the presidential debates, is that there are debates for the masses only. They're not for anybody who actually gives a frack. And I watched the third-party debate, kept me up until like well past 2 in the morning watching it last night, because it was just so... It was like, this is a real American debate about real issues that actually matter.
Good. I mean, the elections haven't been about, hey, let's get a bunch of people together and we'll vote for this. I mean, these elections have been about polarization, and we, and we're very, very polarized. And then again, how do we know? All we know is what the media tells us. And, they've obviously stolen some elections, and they've done some of them quite blatantly, which again is psychological warfare and telling you, well, your vote doesn't really count and blah, 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 so why are you participating? Because, part of their shtick is that, government's bad. Well, that's not, we need government so that we all, can get along and everything. I mean, there's nothing bad with government. Government is a thing. It's what people do with it. And it's just that, we're in the hold of a very bunch of corrupt folks who are doing nasty things to us to stay in power and stay in control. And
you're echoing the words of almost every single one of the debaters at that thing, and almost every single one of the people who are commenting and reporting on it is echoing what you've just said, right? In some cases, you're using the same words, the same language. So we all see the exact same problem, don't we? But the problem is, the bigger problem is coming together.
Was on with Piers Morgan. He brought up 9/11, and Piers, went to roll his eye. Oh, you can't really be saying that, Jesse. And he held up his hand. He says, "Well, audience, who thinks Jesse's just being crackpot here?" Nobody said a word. And then he said, "Well, who thinks Jesse's talking some stuff?" And everybody said, yeah. So basically, all they have is virtual control. They have this television, and they have their the popular culture. They've really been trying to influence the popular culture really, really heavy. But part of the dynamic. I mean, we have the personal computer and the internet, and those are the tools that we're using to fight this corruption. Because the personal computer allows you to do a radio show, me to make books, people to make videos, and the internet, we can share it all with everybody. And so there's a very interesting dynamic going on, because I was working in the suppressed field before the internet, and let me tell you, it was there was a lot of information that they were keeping suppressed, and it was much easier for them to do.
Well, it's so much easier. Like I say,
trying to throw mud around and get people to still think that well, you don't really like. I mean, the Occupy people and the Tea Party people are both talking about bad people up at the top, right? Aren't they talking about the same people?
Yeah, and they attack each other for not pointing their finger at the right bad people at the top, and instead of pointing fingers at the bad people at the top anymore, they start pointing fingers at each other.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And that's classic again. And J.P. Morgan, he said, in the early we're gonna create the right and we're gonna create the left, and they give the right honest things to carry and they give the left honest things to carry. And then those things get debased by them, fighting each other. And then, like Amy Goodman, Democracy Now, and a lot of these websites, won't give us the time of day, won't talk about Bilderberg, won't talk about these things, okay? And if you look at where they get their money, well, golly gee whiz, they get their money from the foundations. You have Chip Burley, Political Research Associates. He gets $750,000 for a 3-man office, and one of the guys is already independently wealthy, and basically he's a spook, and it's his job to keep the left and the right apart, and to anybody in the left that says, oh gosh, maybe Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy, or there's, maybe there's secret society. Oh, well, you've been duped by the right, and it's criminal what these people do. It is criminal what these people do, and even, farther up. And like I say, all they've got is virtual control. And I think that all we have, they can be put in jail. They'd rather put us in jail, I'm sure. But
well, you know what?
We'll just see what happens, I guess, won't we?
Well, here's the thing. They needed us to build those prisons. And I believe that one day, the prisons that they got us to build for ourselves will be used to house them in darkness forever.
Well, I say let's be humane about it, but there, it needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing: it needs to be done, and somebody's got to do it. And you can be guaranteed, if you got the ability to do it, you are that somebody already. So you got to just connect the dots and start doing it. Let's arrest these criminals. Let's arrest these pieces of trash. Let's get them an appropriate punishment for their crimes in a humane way. Loving and caring. We'll be right back after the break at theVinnyEastwoodShow.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live in English from New Zealand on American Freedom Radio. It's real strange. So you've got New Zealander being hosted by an American network, talking to a couple of Americans about something that happened in America and relating it to New Zealand issues. Yeah, it's not complicated. Now, my very special guest, we've only got one final segment, and I always get to the end of it 2 hours, and when I've got a big guest or a really good guest or something like that, I'll give them 2 hours. If they're sort of a bit iffy, I'll give them 1 hour. And I find it, regardless of whether I give them an hour or two, it's never enough, because you meet like minds, and you meet kindred spirits and stuff like that, and you want to absorb from them as much as you can, but we only have a short time frame. So, final words, talking about the importance of 9/11 and this book, the most dangerous book in the world, 9/11 as Mass Ritual. I would like to start with Ken, if you would. What are the most important elements for you personally, and more to the point, when I started researching into all of this stuff, I got depressed, and it was very traumatic just learning about it, and I had to get over it using comedy. Can you relate to that?
Completely. That as we've talked a little bit about, I wrote the book with kind of a humorous eye, and part of that was a coping mechanism on my part, just because of having to deal with such dark material. I wanted something to provide a little bit of levity, not primarily for the reader, but then also for myself. It was certainly easier to write from a humorous perspective. But then, as I think we talked about a little bit earlier, because of the nature of the occult script, the what was done, some of the statements that were made, it's dripping with dark humor, and in many instances they're just there's evidence of clear mockery, just outright mockery of not only the general public but of the victims of 9/11. The sacrifices that were made that day, if you will, they weren't just killing people. They were doing so and then kind of poking each other in the ribs and laughing about it and making jokes and not in a trivial way either. I mean, they really made serious fun in quite a number of instances that you pick up on, and that's that's one thing that it can throw us off track in that, this was obviously a very serious event, and the occult elements we have difficulty sort of processing and getting used to the idea of this being a mass ritual, which we would think would be a super serious thing to them. But then you're hit with this layer of absurdity and humor and dark humor and mockery, and you have even more difficulty adjusting to that. And then so we're faced with a situation where we don't know what to make of what we're being confronted with. Is it a satanic Luciferian ritual? Is it a big fat joke? Is it the largest false flag event in modern history? I mean, what is this? Well, it is many things, and that's one of the reasons that I hope. One of the reasons I wrote the book, and what I hope can come out of it, is that it's another tool to pick this apart with, and another angle to look at it from. And 9/11 is very complicated, complex, and it's so this is kind of peeling back the onion one more layer and looking at what's underneath, and it certainly does stink.
And Kris, what about you? I mean, from your perspective of a publisher, what do you really want people to be taking away from this? And again, relating back to first going into this material and being traumatized with it and finding humor about it, has Kent been a way for you personally to evolve and see the funny side and survive, psychologically speaking?
Well, like I said earlier, I was very lucky in that I was first introduced to this kind of secret material 40 years ago or so, and it just so I've been able to take this journey at a slow pace, and there have been times where I would say I was more fearful than others. But I've been at it long enough that basically my main motivation is determination to see change. Because if we don't do something now, further generations are going to have a much harder time. Because at least we can look back and see in our own lifetime, some freedoms that have gone away. And we can have understanding of life before a lot of the BS has happened. So I'm very hopeful, and so why do I publish? I publish because a book is an act of creation. Okay, I mean there's something that you can hand to somebody else that somebody thought about and put together. And then a book, as being an act of creation, it can take on a life of its own, and hopefully it has a soul. And so in books, Gutenberg's press got rid of the oligarchy of its day, which if you didn't believe in them, they burned you at the stake, and they were so arrogant that they were going around, saying, "Oh, you want to get to heaven? How much money you got?" And then it brought us our republic by the books that were produced and were passed around and people read, and the ideas. And so, there's a reason why they burn books. And so I'm a very big fan of books. And I think that, a book is a place to start, and then it, has websites and different things. And the thing that I'm noticing is that, I don't have access to all the big media and can't tell them about about all of this. But what is going on is that people are responding well. People are reading it, understanding it, want to talk about it, or giving it to their friends. And it is moving through the underground here rather fast, which is good.
Yeah, and we talked about this over the break, Kent and I, Kris, about how the elite can't actually create a page in a book that has original ideas with it, but they can take those ideas on a page that someone else came up with and distort them and twist them, that kind of thing. We were talking about the Olympics and how the opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies were so magical and creative. And I pointed out that, well, actually, there's no creativity there whatsoever. There's only twisting and distortion. They don't have the ability to create. We do. And I believe the elite are intensely jealous of our capacity to do so.
Well, they do tend to do that with many things, such as with the economic cycle of boom and bust. They'll put some money out there. Somebody will have an idea and do something, and then they'll pull the money back, and then they'll get to buy that idea and whatever that gentleman has built for pennies on the dollar. So it's very, very similar. And I do think that the creativity that the internet and the personal computer have engendered far surpasses the sophistry of the elite, and that is one of the dynamics that is going on. And so again, I'm very hopeful, and I think that we can take back our country, take back our world, and there's very few of these blue balls spinning through space with organic life and on it there. And just think, okay, and this, from a pragmatic standpoint, the secret society has been, very much entrenched for the past 150 years, okay? And just think of if the money and the effort that they have spent to subdue and to fracture and to, play games with us people, if that was actually used for the benefits of humankind.
Yeah, well,
we could have a wonderful world.
Well, it's like they say in V for Vendetta, authors use lies to tell the truth, whereas politicians use lies to cover the truth up. And I want to thank you guys very much for all that you do, and I feel honoured to have gotten the opportunity to speak with you at this very moment, as if every day all these great people that I speak to suddenly and deliberately enriches my life and how much I enjoy it by getting to know people who basically have their heads screwed on straight and understand that it's 2012. Time to stop fracking around. Gentlemen, thank you very much. The book is the most dangerous book in the world, 9/11 as Mass Ritual. You can get that on from the websites and stuff like that. Google it up. See you again.
If you take an active interest in maintaining the optimum health and well-being of yourself and your family, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is the magazine you've been waiting for. Having taken Australia and New Zealand by storm, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is now available in the UK and Europe. Visit www.nznaturalmed.co.uk or call 01626 337 531 to order your copy now.
Do you realise every day we are being put under constant stress from wireless radiation? What's worse is that you don't even know that it's happening. It puts as much stress on our body as if we had a constant viral infection, draining our energy and sapping our strength, or just making us irritable and fatigued. These wireless fields are being emitted from computers, microwaves, mobile phones, power lines, and any electrical appliance. Now there is a solution. A group of research engineers in New Zealand have come up with an active shielding device that shields you from wireless radiation at a cellular level. Blue Shield comes in 3 models, a household, portable, and USB that plugs into any computer. The great thing about Blue Shield is it is very affordable and guaranteed to last. A one-off purchase will see you being protected for years to come. Visit AmericanFreedomRadio.com and click on the Blue Shield banner. Blue Shield, brought to you by the VinnyEastwoodShow.com.
No matter where you live, globalism affects you. Did you know that the Vinny Eastwood Show has more subscribers than New Zealand Herald TV and is New Zealand's most popular YouTube news channel, where warm-hearted humour and a list of awesome guests talk about crucial issues which the mainstream media ignore? A show where you the listener, can phone up with questions, comments and suggestions of guests. Vinny is building a hub to connect truthers with raw information they need to become active. He can help you gain further skills such as website building, producing audio and video, and creating revenue streams in your own multimedia environment. Because Vinny supports such a wide range of people in the truth movement, he is not government or corporate backed and relies entirely on your donations. Give now, give generously, or subscribe for $10 a month for access to ad-free video archives. Just visit thevinnyeastwoodshow.com and click donate.